Boy, I feel like we've been talking about this Democratic nomination forever now, but it's finally Super Tuesday. 14 states are holding primaries today.
Yeah, it is a big deal for those remaining in the race, with nearly a third of all the delegates needed to win and the Democratic nomination at stake. So, Oakland University political science professor Dave Dulio is here to help us break it down. Are you surprised that you get candidates now dropping out, going for Biden?
Not at all. Very much expected. We usually see as the primary race moves into this phase, the second month or so, consolidation of the field, the narrowing of the field from a very big one early on in this process to one that's arguably down to 2 or 3 candidates.
Yeah, let's talk about Super Tuesday, because people out there maybe not as ingrained in politics as we are because of our jobs. What is exactly at stake here?
At the bottom line of this is a whole lot of delegates to the national convention, as Jay said, about almost a third.
But it doesn't necessarily determine the...
Oh gosh, no. We've got about 1,300 delegates at stake today out of almost 4,000 in total. So while this is the most consequential day of the Democratic primary thus far, it is not the end-all be-all. But it is absolutely critical to who is going to get that nomination.
I asked you in the break just about when you're teaching, do you talk much about a brokered convention? Because this is the type of situation where even if one candidate, hypothetically, if Bernie Sanders got the biggest amount of delegates, doesn't mean he'd get the nomination.
Well, and projections right now, if you look at some of the analyses that are out there, that's the likely outcome, is that not one candidate is going to have the requisite number of delegates. In this case, it's 1,991. Some candidate is going to have to find that many delegates throughout this process. Right now, it looks like no one is going to do that, in which case we get to a brokered or contested convention. The last one we had was 1952, so these don't come around all that often. And once you get to the convention with no candidate having a majority of delegates, all bets are off.
All right, how many candidates? We've got, what, 4 left? We've got Bloomberg, Warren, Sanders, and Biden.
Don't forget Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, Tulsi Gabbard.
She's still on the ballot.
In town tonight, actually. So let's break it down. Who has the best chance right now?
Well, it depends, right? It really depends on what happens today, because I tend to think of presidential primaries as iterative processes. They're based on, or they're affected by events that happen throughout. That event could be a primary or a caucus. It could be a debate. And we see oftentimes the race reshuffle or recalibrate after an event, and you see candidates' chances or their momentum swings go up or down, and it really is impacted by what has happened in recent past in that. So what happens here in Michigan, say, next week will be tremendously impacted by what happens today.
So if you're Mike Bloomberg and you're spending millions and millions of dollars, an obscene amount of money, after a day like today, because today we're going to get some results to see what that's doing. We'll figure out how he's doing. If he doesn't fare well today, what happens? Does he keep going? Does he stop and back someone and put all the money there?
That's a great question. That's one for Mike Bloomberg, though, right? I mean, that he seems to have indicated.
But we want you to answer. No.
What is your opinion?
He seems to have indicated that he's going to keep going. And frankly, he's spent close to $500 million nationwide thus far. Over $10 million here in Michigan alone. That's a lot of money for not some great results, at least what the polling looks like. So I don't know if he would try to keep going and build some momentum, or do more to try to get some delegates that he could play a role at a brokered convention where he would have some cards to play, right? So it really is, it'll be interesting to see what he does moving forward.
Speaking of interesting, on our primary is coming up next Tuesday, and it's not just the Democrats who can come out and vote. Republicans can come out and vote too, probably for the candidate that they think is less likely to beat President Trump.
Right. So we have a primary here in Michigan for both parties. There's going to be a Republican primary. Donald Trump is on the ballot, obviously, a couple other candidates who aren't going to win. But we also have in Michigan an open primary system where any person, any voter in Michigan can vote in either the Democratic or Republican primary. So Republicans can absolutely cross over and vote in the Democratic primary. We saw this happen in 2016 with Democrats crossing over and voting in the Republican primary.
So you're saying that, I mean, a strategic Republican could vote for a Democrat that they want the president to go up against.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Just fascinating.
Interesting, yeah, absolutely.
It really is fascinating. And after tonight, it's going to get even more interesting.
Absolutely. We'll get some clarity, maybe.
Maybe. Always fun to have you on, Professor DeLeo. Come back soon, and
Anytime.
we'll talk about the results.
Sounds good.
Got 9 more questions for you.
Yes. It's always not enough time.
In the break when we come back.